So I'm here to tell you guys today why I don't think money is evil. In fact, I think greed actually is the root of all evil. And in phrase, the phrase really is the love of money is the root of all evil, not money itself. I think greed can be manifested in a lot of ways. It can be manifested through your career. It can be manifested through, your image of yourself, some form of power, whether it's political, economic, social power. Really, greed, which I kind of vaguely describe as the overwhelming concern for yourself at the disregard and expense of others, that's really the root of all evil. But money is not evil. Money is actually an incredible thing that plays such an indispensable part of the world we live in today. We would be so much more poor and worse off and have such a low quality standard of living without it. And I'm not talking like poor in the US. I'm talking like Haiti poor without it. So quick raise of hands again. Does anybody know who invented money? Anybody? Jordan? Wrong. Anybody else? Wrong. It's a trick question, actually. Nobody really invented money. Money is a natural outgrowth of human desires, of our human action. So I'm going to tell you a quick story to give a general summary of how it happened. So walking through the market like 6,000 years ago. I'm actually like 6,000 years old, by the way. Juice keeps me really young, but that's not important right now. So I was walking through, and I have my juices, and I'm trying to get shoes, because I really like shoes. Like Nike and New Balance, they have a special place in my heart. So I walked up to the merchant, and I said, I got this juice. I need a pair of shoes. And he said, no. And I said, what do you mean, no? And he said, I don't want your stupid juice. It's gross, and it's healthy, and I don't want it. And who wouldn't want it? Well, apparently this merchant wouldn't. But he told me, do you have salt? I could use some salt for preservation of my food. And I was like, no, but hold tight. So I went and traded my juice for some salt, gave the guy the salt, and got my shoes. And walking home very happily, because I like shoes. And I was talking to my friend, and he goes, yeah, dude, that's old news. Like, we do that all the time. We trade for something that we don't need, but we know someone else probably is going to need. And then we go get what we need. And we came to the realization that that is what money is. Money, simply defined, is a medium of exchange. It facilitates trade. So before money came about, people used barter, and like I showed you, there was the issue of what's called the double coincidence of wants. You have to have what I want and want what I have, and in the right quantity and quality too, and it's really difficult, and it's extremely time-consuming. So the natural outgrowth of people's desires to get the most for their time and money and reduce transaction costs was to create money. So we did this for a couple more 100 years. Remember, I'm 6,000 years old. And over time, we came to the realization that there were some problems with salt. We also tried cattle as money too. That was a pretty common money. But the problem with cattle was you can't really break it up. I could trade one cattle for like 50 pairs of shoes. I would want that, but no normal human being would want that. And you can't really chop off a leg because the parts are not worth as much as the whole. So we made it work, but over time, there were other things that we came to realize are really important in a money. And naturally, gold and silver were actually selected as money. And they have all of the right characteristics that we want as money. They're portable. They're divisible, unlike the cow. They have a store of value, like you can expect it over a long period of time to buy what you expect it to buy. And you can hold it for a long period of time. And the other important thing is it's what's called fungible, which is like a really weird way of saying they're all the same. So like $1 in my pocket is worth the same as $1 in your pocket. And that's really important because of what I'm going to lead to, which is why money is so important. The medium of exchange is its primary function, but the derivative of that is actually why money is so important. Money allows for some feedback mechanism. And we need a feedback mechanism because in the world, there's like finite stuff. We can't make matter. The matter in the world it just is. Like, we can't create matter. So for us to want something and to make our lives better, we have to transform the resources that we have in the world, the stuff, and also our time. Our time is limited too. We're going to die at some point. So we want to know that, and we need a feedback mechanism to know that the money that we have, the resources that we're using are being used efficiently in the sense that we're taking stuff and creating better stuff for them. And that really allows for creativity. It allows for entrepreneurship. It's really what's necessary to guide us in the world. Take, for example, building this building. I mean, an engineer could conceive of 1,000 ways to make this building. I mean, they could have used an infinite array of materials, and how would they know if what they're doing is efficient? I mean, yeah, there's a lot of ways you could make it, but they could have also lined the floor with gold. Now, that would look great, but I don't think that would be a good use of resources because there's a better use for gold. And also, like, they could have lined it with silver, but silver is more valued in our iPhones and in that camera and in many other things. And without some common denominator, without some feedback mechanism, we would have no idea if what we're doing, if the resources we're transforming are being used efficiently and we're actually getting richer, if we're getting more for less. And without that common denominator, society could actually never pass a really primitive, poor level. There's also many issues that people kind of associate with money, but a lot of that is because of the type of money we have today. As I explained earlier, money is a commodity. It's a natural outgrowth by our desires to reduce transaction costs, to reduce total costs in our life, meaning just get as much as we can out of as little time and resources that we could expend. So a lot of those problems are associated with the fact that we don't use a hard money like gold and silver. And a lot of that is because we have a paper dollar. Imagine this is 6,000 years ago, and there is no money, and you're just trading barter, and someone walks up to you and says, I'll take your cattle, and here's these pieces of paper. They would look at you like you're a crazy person. They'd be like, I'm educated. I passed 3rd grade. I made it far. I want something of tangible that is of use in the world. And that's really important for money to be a natural commodity. It's something that has value in and of itself, but it's also traded for something else. Now, as you know, we don't use gold and silver today. There's Bitcoin that people hear about a lot too. I don't know if you guys are familiar. It's essentially the internet of money. Is that money? I don't think so, only that it's not widely used. I can't pay them for Bitcoin and get a coffee. You can't pay me for a juice Bitcoin, not yet at least. But the important part is that money is needed as a medium of exchange, and it really allows for that economic calculation. Now, if you believe that, I'm sure there's still many objections to money in general, like it creates all these problems, and I'll throw some of them out there. There's the one that money makes us materialistic. I sort of agree, but not really. Just imagine if we were in that primitive state 6,000 years ago. For one, not only could you not be materialistic, but you couldn't be unmaterialistic because we would be so poor. We would be spending all of our time trying to harvest food and stay warm and really just like not die, like be one harvest away from starvation. That's a pretty common phrase. That was the case, thousands of years ago. And now nobody worries about starvation in the US. We are so astronomically rich that like a systemic starvation is just really not something that happens. So what we have today, because we're so wealthy, is it gives us that free time. We can do more with less. That's why a lot of people here can work a 40-hour job and then have disposable income and that leisure. And with that leisure time, you can do with whatever you want. You can give back to the community like a lot of people do. You can be very religious. You can enjoy hobbies. You can be materialistic. You can do with it whatever you want. Money gives us that freedom to do what we want. And if we didn't have it, we wouldn't be materialistic, but we also couldn't be very spiritual either. We couldn't be the other beautiful things in the world too. Another common objection is that money creates income inequality. Well, for one, who's being materialistic now? But other thing is that we are all different in the world. Like no one in this room is the same. We're all really good at actually only a few things, and we suck at a lot of things. But that's why money is really important, because it allows us to specialize in what we're good at and then trade for money, a common medium of exchange, and then go buy with what we want. And some people in the world actually just are naturally really, really good at it. Like, I don't have my phone on me. I was going to pull it out. But, Steve Jobs and, the late Steve Jobs and all the people that follow have made this device for the same price that it was 10, 15 years ago. And with it, we no longer have to buy a camera. We no longer have to buy a GPS, a gaming device. I mean, all these things for the same price are on this little gadget. And now we're that much richer because that money we would have otherwise spent, we now have for disposable income, or we could invest, or we could give it to charity, or whatever other cause it is. And when someone has such an impact on hundreds of millions of people, they absolutely deserve a reward. And even people that are some of the 19th century monopolists, like John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie, people that are condemned in a lot of textbooks that we get in school, these people took the cost of the two most important raw materials, like oil and steel, and they dropped the cost by like 95%. How much richer does that make us is just incredible. We could do so much more. And a lot of the stuff that we already buy is now cheaper, and we can, without even having to get a raise, we're actually richer because of these people, because the things that we buy are cheaper, we have the same income, and we can buy more. Now, there are some people that have an income inequality that is unjust, and there's no doubt about that, but a lot of that can actually be attributed to the type of money we have. We have fiat money, which is just pieces of paper, and there's an organization called the Federal Reserve that can create trillions of dollars with actual keystrokes. That's not an exaggeration. That's exactly what they do. And when you print trillions of dollars and hand it to rich bankers, yeah, you're going to have income inequality, but they didn't do anything for that. They didn't provide the community or the US or the world with some valuable service that people offer. And if you don't believe me that that is exacerbated income inequality, just Google the Federal Reserve base money and compare it to income inequality since 2007, and it's pretty closely correlated. So there's a lot of people that have unjustly become wealthy, and there has been some income inequality, and that is wrong. But the people that have provided us with a vast array of incredible standard of living, that have done their part, they absolutely deserve. They deserve to be rewarded for what they've done. The other big objection to money is that it allows you to buy, favors with regards to politics. Don't want to go down that rabbit hole today, but suffice it to say that if you don't like your rights being sold away, the politician shouldn't have the capability to sell them in the first place. So that's kind of my talk. I think there are a lot of problems with money, but I think most of them can be attributed to something separate from actual money itself. It's a morality thing, it's a spirituality, it's a religious thing. But money per se allows us to know, it's that guiding stick, it's that flashlight in the dark to know that the resources we're using in the world are making us richer, are making us freer, are making us have such a higher standard of living to do what we want in our lives. We can work a small percentage of our time compared to what we used to, and now we can enjoy these talks. I mean, if we weren't wealthy enough and didn't have the time and the transportation, nobody would be here right now. And that's all thanks to money. Thank you guys. I really hope you liked it. If anything I said sounded remotely appealing, I would recommend checking out the Ludwig von Mises Institute. It's mises.org. Shameless plug, I work for them. I do it for free because I believe what they believe of trying to educate the world and make that understand economics and freedom and have a more peaceful and prosperous world. Thank you.